All right, guys, welcome to Onelife Podcast. Here with Armena from LSSN, which is a non-profit which helps out a little bit to do with homeless, but a lot to do with low-income families here in Las Vegas, correct?
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
I've been excited to talk to you. I love what you're doing. I talked to a lot of people about different things, but what it's come very present with this podcast is I want to talk to more people doing amazing things like you are to create more awareness and have more of an impact. So I hope this can benefit your cause.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
No. So give me a run. What is it that you do and why do you do it?
So LSSN is Lutheran Social Services of Nevada.
Yeah.
It is a nonprofit organization, which means we are a 501c3. And the mission of our organization is to express the love of Christ by serving and caring for people in need. Basically, the whole purpose of the organization is to be able to provide care and service to people that need us.
Okay.
And there could be a lot of different needs, obviously, that people experience. And the majority of our services would be focused on their nutrition needs, employment needs. Are they able to take care of their housing? So there's so many different needs in our community. But in our case, we focus on several of those very important, needs that our community experiences.
Okay. How predominant is this in Las Vegas?
The needs or the organization or
the needs, is there a high percentage of people who need your help?
Certainly, yes. And it's not just our organization that serves our community. There's thousands of nonprofit organizations that have their special focuses.
Okay.
And for definitely, we are, there's so many needs in our community that need to be addressed, starting from homelessness all the way into housing, mental health, all kinds of different needs that our community has, especially after COVID. During COVID, obviously, so many of us were affected, including our community. So we're trying our best. And this organization, just like any other nonprofit organization in the community, I think is doing extraordinary work, though it's very hard to see every day, to see the people with needs. It's kind of hurts our hearts, but we have to continue serving them with the same love and care that we can, as much as we can.
Okay.
So
you mentioned when you've been doing this since you're 13.
Yes.
Let's go back.
So
where does it all start?
Well, originally I am from Armenia, just like my name, Armena, right? Armena from Armenia.
Armena from Armenia.
Yeah. And when I was 13 years old, I remember that day perfectly. What happened was, I was at school and we were writing midterms, December 7th, 1988, and it started shaking. So we didn't understand what was going on, but it turned out to be that it was a major earthquake that killed, official sources say about, I think, 25,000 people, but in reality it was 50,000 people within like a couple seconds. And after that, the whole country was in chaos. It was a major earthquake. And when it happened, at that same time, Armenia was going through war with the neighbor country. So it was a pretty serious situation. So within a few seconds, the country lost electricity. We didn't know what was going on. It was pretty horrifying time, for about 4 to 5 years after 1988 started. Those events started in 1988. We had to go through a lot of difficulties, and I was 13. So what happened is my aunt, my uncle, my mother, myself, my brother who was 15 and I was 13, we started going into hospitals and helping people because there were so many people that died, so many people lost different parts of their bodies, there were children without parents. It was chaos. So we had to do whatever we had to do to help out. So since then, I got involved and started volunteering. And though my dream was not to grow up and work for a nonprofit, there was even no nonprofit in Armenia at the time. My aunt was the one who introduced the 501c3 law into the parliament in Armenia.
Oh, really?
And got the law passed. So my aunt actually started the whole movement and brought the nonprofits into the country. So I've been in it since 13 years old, and changed my whole
What is it
dream.
about volunteering and helping other people that?
Well, I mean, when growing up, I had a pretty hard life in Armenia, which
is that pretty common for Armenia? Like,
we were part of Soviet Union at the time, right? We were part of Russia, and it was communist at the time. When, especially like for example with the earthquake when it happened. So imagine that you're in a war. It's a very tiny country, doesn't have a lot of good natural resources. It's not a wealthy country. So the only way, let's say you receive major sources of food or supplies comes from another country through all these trains. And then the neighbor country bombs all these trains and all these roads. So the country, we would not have anything to eat for days, if that makes sense.
So you're literally relying on everyone around you.
Exactly. We had no electricity for several years.
Oh, wow.
Nothing.
Really?
You had no hot water, nothing. So you have to live like that. So what I noticed was, that in those difficult times, different countries started sending their support to Armenia. So if they didn't support us, what were we going to do? I remember at that time during the earthquake, the nuclear station of Armenia got damaged. And I think 60% of electricity in Armenia was coming through that source alone. So I remember that the United States gave us some money and we were able to fix it. A few years later, we started having, electricity. It was like, first you had no electricity for like 3 weeks. Then you had 30 minutes, then 1 hour, one and a half. So throughout the years, so when we were in hardship and we received the support, obviously we appreciated that. So, when I remember very well that, before going to school, we still had to go to school and study just like any other person. But before going to school, my brother and I would switch every day, and we had to go in the morning and buy bread. It was pretty tough. There was not much, especially in the beginning couple years. And when I was in line in winter cold, because everything started happening in December.
And you got real winter, right? You got Russian
real
cold
winter. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And at that time, I had to stand in line for like 2 to 3 hours, buy bread, buy coupons. They wouldn't even give you the whole bread. They would give you a portion of it, depending how many people you have in the family. And I'm a kid, 13 years old. So when I was standing in line, because hundreds of people would stand to receive that, allowance of bread because we had to survive that day. I was thinking in my mind, I'm like, this is not okay. I'm going to grow up and help at least one more teenager not to stand in line for basic necessity, which is the bread. And it kind of stuck with me that I need to grow up and do something to help the community. Since it's basically part of who I am. I think it's, I joke about it that, helping others is kind of like part in my DNA, if that makes sense.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Do you think going through such hardship was the best thing that happened to you as far as becoming the woman you are today?
I believe
I always ask these questions.
100%, because I think that we are who we are based on our life experiences, right? What we go through. And it makes, those types of hardships make us who we are today, and they kind of shape us.
Do you feel like I talk about this a lot. So I'm Australian. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
How old? 48.
Yeah. So
I just turned 48.
I'm 43. I grew up in Australia,
Yeah.
on the beach, with electricity and food. I'd never been through hardship. And it's not till I started growing up and reading and doing podcasts and realizing that that's not normal. I mean, it's normal for some people, but I feel like here in the US, a lot of people lack perspective and they lack appreciation of how damn lucky they really do have it. And then you got someone like you who's been through hell and back.
Yeah.
You've been through the Great Depression at 13 in the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when, and I was 13, but I started thinking like I was like 50, 60 years old or something.
Yeah. Like you were forced to survive. And
for sure.
Like people whinge about, I could never take a cold shower or I could never not eat for 24 hours. You were literally forced to do that for years.
Yeah. Look, when in 1998, when I got a scholarship to study for my master's degree here in the United States, in East Coast, I remember few months, I was just a few months after I arrived in the United States, and we were at school, we were at college studying, and suddenly the electricity went off for about 15 minutes. You had to see what was going on. All my classmates are freaking out. That's the word, right? Like they were scared.
Yeah,
right?
It's like when it rains in Las Vegas.
Yes, they were so afraid that something really bad had happened, and I was the only calm person there. And they are, some of my college friends, they're like, "How come you're not reacting?" I said, "I've been without electricity for weeks, months. It's okay for me." Because it was totally normal for me. I was used to it. I mean, we had no water to drink for weeks. My brother and I had to carry water from the neighbor's house, apartment from the first floor, because we were living on the 9th floor.
Oh,
and when the light was off, like electricity is off, the water would, by inertia, that's the word in English, right? Inertia. By inertia, the water would go only on the first floor, but it wouldn't go up, right? Because there's no light, nothing works, no systems. So everything is shut off. So all the neighbors would come downstairs, and first floor neighbors would leave their door open, so we would go and carry all the buckets up.
I talk about this so much. And like you see someone so upset about their Frappuccino in the morning, and they're sitting in the Tesla whinging about the Frappuccino being wrong. I'm like, 2/3 of the world don't have access to clean water.
Exactly.
People like you have been through hell.
Yeah.
And like you gotta have some type of true perspective. Like, I'm lucky I was born in Australia. Full stop. I didn't do anything special. I'm not special. I'm just lucky. I could have been born in Russia, a communist country, could have been in China, could have been born in India. My life would be a hell of a lot different.
That is true, but I don't agree with what your statement regarding you not being special. I think you are special. Well, I strongly believe God created each one of us, and we have a specific purpose. There was a reason that I was born in Armenia, not in Australia or America, and I guess I was given a purpose, and I think you too.
I like that.
And you are special. You really are. Just the fact that you're conducting this interview with me right now, it is very special. So
maybe self-awareness. Knowing what you're calling, like I feel like this is part of my calling, is to help express stories and help other people through other people's experiences.
Exactly.
But you've had your own experience, which has molded you to who you are today. Yeah, it's pretty powerful stuff, though, isn't it?
It is. It is, and I mean, when you are going through it, though, when you're going through those difficulties and hardships, it's not easy. I mean, I cried a lot. I was praying a lot to God. Why us? Why me?
Yeah, that's the thing,
tough,
right?
Lord. Why? I'm just a kid, And my dream was to become a professor at the Yerevan State University.
Oh, is it really?
And of Armenian language and literature. That was my dream.
Really?
And my dream was to become a professor and an author, because I loved writing poems and, books.
But somebody else had a different direction for you.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And I never looked back, because this was the right thing for me. You know how fish has to be in water, right? Breathe in water. Fish cannot be out of water. I'm like fish in the nonprofit world. Like if I'm not in that world, I basically die, right?
Yeah, you lose a part of yourself.
Yes.
You lose your purpose.
I need that. I'm the fish in my water.
Do you mind if I ask you how your parents handle something like that, like such hardship, and trying to lead by example and not let it get to them? Because if you're a parent, like I'm a parent, you've got to be strong for your children. How do you do that? How do they do that?
Well, my father was out of the picture, so I can't talk about my father. Not a good human being, so out of the picture. But I have one of the most amazing human beings in this world is my mother. Okay. And my mom was a trooper. It was just my mom, my brother, and I. Wow. We were a team.
I like that.
My mom was my father, my mother, my best friend, my everything.
Really?
As well as my brother. We had to stick together really strongly and help each other out. And because my mom is also a very caring and loving human being, she was encouraging us. It's difficult what we're going through. It is tough when you have no heating in your house and you're in the middle of Armenian winter. And
which is literally one of the coldest
no
places you could
heating,
be.
no light, and then suddenly they give you the light. The government gives you the light for like 30-40 minutes. My mom had to take the iron, quickly iron the sheets off our beds, my brother's and my beds, so it would get warm a little bit, so we would just jump in it with our coats and everything. It's like, because it feels like you're living outside. But she had to find the strength. We had to find the strength in us and live like that for close to 4 to 5 years until things start stabilizing. So I'm not sure about other parents, because I only have seen my mother do that. But I am sure they all had, all the parents in Armenia had to do the same thing to survive and make sure their kids survive, because there was no other way. It was the situation in the country. You have to go through it. You have to figure it out. You have to live it.
That's crazy. What as far as you as an individual, what type of growth and what did it? I know it's such a bad thing, but what did it do as far as developing you to who you are today? Are you just relentless? Are you able to handle everything? Are you?
Well, I mean, since I was a kid, I was very brave, if that makes sense. I was very strong and independent. I think I had to be. I was younger, but my brother was older than me, but I had to protect my brother because he is the nicest guy. And
really?
When you're very, very nice, a lot of people can take advantage of you, especially guys, when you're growing up. And I was the little sister, but I was the fiery tough one. And I had to be very strong. No one was allowed to do anything bad to my brother. I was always there to protect him. And so I have always been very determined and very independent, and I had to be, because also my father wasn't really around, and my brother and I had to do everything to make sure that the three of us survive in this world. Right? But I was determined since I was very young, even when I was 6 to 7 years old, going to school, that I was going to become a professor at college, and I was going to write books. Like, that was my determination, and I never steered from it. But obviously, the life experience that I have experienced have made me stronger, more independent, more determined, to be able to not only survive in this world but thrive. And I do have 2 sons, and I have to make sure that they become normal, good citizens of the United States of America.
I like how you say it, not just survive, but thrive. I love that. Yeah. That's powerful. So, and then you're instilling that in your kids too. Yes. How old are your boys?
So I have a 19-year-old son and a 11-year-old son.
Have you done a good job as far as like that mindset and giving them that perspective?
Probably. I try.
It's got to be hard though, because they're born in America and
it is hard.
They don't know any different.
Yeah. Sometimes when I try to talk, like my youngest son, I think he's much more sensitive, much more like me. And he when he was 4 to 5 years old, even, he was asking me, why is there so much injustice in this world, Mom?
Oh, really?
Why are there homeless people in this world, Mom? He still has very interesting questions. So I'm able to tell my youngest more. But when I talk to my oldest son, my 19-year-old, he says, Mom, I understand what you went through, but I can't really imagine it or really understand it.
How could you?
Because I was never in it.
I don't feel like anybody could.
Yeah. My son is honest with me. He says, I'm spoiled, Mom. I have everything I need and don't need.
At least he understands that. I feel like, especially in America, I feel like a lot of people don't understand how spoiled you are, how lucky you are.
My son knows he's spoiled. He knows that, we do everything and anything for them. They have all kinds of games and things, and he's able to go to college, and he has everything. But I think this technology nowadays is so can be so overwhelming for young people. If it's overwhelming for me, I can imagine how overwhelming they might not feel it, but while in it. But I don't know. I miss the days when we had more traditional, things. If you want to read a book
or a conversation,
get off your back and write, or a conversation. Go to the library, read a book, or talk to a human being instead
to a human being.
Using
the simple stuff, right?
Right, the simple stuff. I really miss those days. And it seems to me that my generation and your generation was like that, and then that's it. A few years after, it started changing. Everything.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it's very interesting. I coming from Australia, I struggle seeing the homeless over here. It's really upsetting. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's every corner. You don't see that at all back home. It's not till you go to like the major cities. Sydney, you see maybe one or two people. Here, it's everywhere. It's really upsetting. The military side of things, veterans and things, it's super upsetting.
Yeah.
I've been here for 12 years and I still have a very hard time seeing that stuff. So I didn't grow up with it. I didn't see it. To me, it didn't exist.
Yeah, it does, unfortunately, in our country and in our own community. I was just talking to my coworkers today with Jesse and Sean. We have a food pantry. It's a digital market. So we provide hundreds of thousands of pounds of food to our community every year. And right outside our facility, we had at least 2 or 3 homeless people stationed with their items. And it's a very difficult situation because we want to do everything to help them. And some, obviously we have programs that some of those programs are very successful, and some of our homeless folks will not go back to homelessness, but some will still remain homeless no matter how much we try to help them.
Why is that?
I don't know. I mean, so some of I'm guessing that some of the folks, those that have mental health issues, substance abuse issues, those areas need to be addressed. Our organization is not equipped to do those. Those are other organizations that are focused on it.
Yeah.
Some chronic homelessness is a tough one.
What's that one?
So chronically homeless. So people that have been homeless for either more than once or longer periods of time. These are specialized organizations that will have successes with. The situations, for example, like we have families that we serve, if we don't help them and pay their rent for a few months, they will definitely become homeless. Those are situations that, if someone loses their job or becomes disabled, or
so you're coming in and helping with rent.
Exactly.
And stuff.
We help them, and when you temporarily kind of help them up, and
you're
work
keeping
with
them
their
afloat.
goals, right?
Yeah, okay.
And then we do a lot of case management with them. Then they're able to move up and not be homeless anymore. But yeah, we do have.
And that's something that can happen to anybody, right? Well, is it like 8 out of 10 Americans live paycheck to paycheck?
Exactly.
And if you take that paycheck away, you're not far from being homeless.
That's for sure.
You fall behind very quickly.
Same thing can happen to me, honestly.
It can happen to anybody.
If I don't get a paycheck for maybe 3 months, then I'll be homeless as well. So it's the same thing.
And it's a lack of financial education. It's a whole bunch of things that tie into that. It's also the pressure to live beyond your means. If you don't have the coolest car and the brand new watch and the brand new phone, and you're not anybody, you've got to have this stuff. But by doing so, you get caught up in this rat race, and you're paycheck to paycheck, and you're not free.
Yeah.
You're just surviving.
Yeah. And so a lot of times, obviously, the external environment might affect as well. For example, during COVID, right? So many businesses got shut down in our community alone. So people were struggling. So
and they're already struggling before that. That's
before
the
that
problem.
As well.
Yeah,
exactly. And for example, during that time frame, we saw in about a year and a half into COVID, when it first started, 2020, we had 400% increase in the number of people we were serving. 400% was tough.
Wow.
Right? So, within just very short period of time, people lost jobs, people lost, apartments, opportunity to live in a place. So it was tough. So it happens.
So you're a non-profit. You're doing food, you're helping people when they lose a job on rent. What are the avenues you're helping people on?
So there are 3 categories of service that we have. One is called community nutrition services, one is the empowerment services, and one is senior supportive services.
Okay.
So the community nutrition services comprises of a digital market.
What is a digital market?
It's an online system that you use to order food. So it's
really?
a choice. You make your choice what you want to eat. But in reality, it has a physical warehouse, obviously. Our building has about 3,000 square foot food pantry. So the Digimart provides hundreds of thousands of pounds of food to our community. We work with a lot of different churches in the community, with our food bank 3 Square, with different grocery stores, businesses, corporations, and they donate food.
Okay.
And we also have some funding and we purchase food.
Okay.
So that's one of the services. Then we also work with a lot of different organizations and in different spots in our community, like in Las Vegas, for example, we will distribute food on Saturdays mainly, and it's called open air market. So it's kind of like a farmer's market, and within just like 3 to 4 hour time frame, we can distribute 10 to 15,000 pounds of food. And we work with 3 Square Food Bank to do this. Another portion of community nutrition services is education-related education-related programs. We do cooking demonstrations. We teach our clients how to cook healthy foods and teach them. So that would be the community nutrition. Under senior supportive services, we have 2 senior meal sites. What that means is basically we serve hot meals Monday through Friday to homeless seniors. And also,
I never thought about homeless seniors. I never thought about homeless seniors.
Yeah.
That's really upsetting, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, is that common? Is that, like, I don't mean to sound naive, but is that a common thing?
Probably it is that we have clients for both locations, and
Yeah.
we're being approached by others as well to open sites.
Are you talking like 65 and over type?
60 and up.
Wow, that's upsetting.
Yeah. And the other services, and we also go to low-income seniors' houses, and we take food with us, hygiene supplies. For example, for seniors, it's some seniors will require adult diapers. They're very expensive.
Yeah.
So we do.
All diapers are expensive.
Yes, and we take diapers with us and whatever other hygiene supplies to their homes. And the other component of our services would be empowerment, family empowerment services. And this is mostly our housing services, where, we will pay for rent and utilities for our clients. We will do a lot of case management, which means we come up with goals with them. What are your goals? I'll help you with this many months of rent, and you'll do the employment. Yeah, you'll find a job.
So you're expected to take certain steps to get
to
the
help themselves, because no matter how much we help them, if they don't want to be helped, right?
Yeah, and you don't want them just milking the system and not doing anything.
Exactly.
Okay.
And a workforce program, employment program, where we work with our clients to help when we help them find jobs. We work with employers and try to connect our clients with them.
Do you do job training, or you got someone who comes in to help you with that?
We actually do job training, and it's a new program we started a few months ago.
What does that entail?
So it's working with our clients all the way going from, let's say, if you wanted to find a job, what would that mean? Resume writing, cover letter, applying, finding appropriate employers, applying for jobs, how to dress successfully at an interview.
Gotcha.
How to maintain your job.
Do you help them with the clothes and stuff along the way if they need it?
Yes, if they need it, we do.
Okay, printing, resumes.
Whatever is needed,
okay, that's
for
amazing.
them to be successful.
Because that's so, that you may have the skill, but you don't. It's kind of marketing yourself, right? Knowing how to actually wrap it up in a bow and present it properly.
Right.
That's very interesting.
So basically, our organization provides several social services to be able to help them go up, and we're trying to lift them up so they can go back to their feet, on their feet, and be able to continue to have a stable life.
So did you create this? Is this you? Is this you building a team? Is this you joining part of a team? Where does this start? Because this is a huge...
Yeah. Well, my understanding is, based on our history, in 1985, a group of people like you and I, volunteers, not paid staff, a group of people from different Lutheran churches in our community here in Las Vegas, they decided to create a clothing closet and help people out.
Okay.
So they worked for a few years, just helping the community. It was not formed as a nonprofit.
Do you know what started it in the first place? Why that year? What
I don't know. I don't know. There wasn't many documents mentioning when I first started working there. In 1996 is when the organization, the people that were running it voluntarily, decided to submit paperwork to the IRS for 501c3.
Okay.
That's when you become a nonprofit organization. And so it has been incorporated into a nonprofit in 1996.
Okay.
I was hired as the director of the organization in 2008.
Okay.
So about 15 years ago. In a few months it will be 15. So I did not create it, but I was able to build it more, make it grow more, provide more services, more programs to the community.
Gotcha. And how rewarding has that been, being part of something so amazing, and after what you've been through and keeping that promise to yourself, and now helping, like, how many, you must be helping, what, hundreds of thousands of, how many people would you be helping?
Anywhere 15,000-20,000 people a year, anywhere. Every year.
That's amazing. How does that feel? Like,
it's rewarding, obviously, because like I told you, since I was a child, I knew it was important to help another person, because we're stronger together, right? I can do a lot of things alone, but guess what? I can't really do much more and more things. When you are doing something together for the community, it's very important. And actually, there is research done. I read some articles that says that when you are not self-absorbed, when you are trying to help someone else with something that you can help with, when you are giving yourself to a cause and helping and volunteering, donating, you live longer and you're happier. There's somehow this, whatever chemical components are in our brain, in our body, whatever happens, whatever chemical process happens in our bodies, it actually helps a person live longer and happier if you are helping someone else. It is true. Like, it is true for me.
Like that.
Right?
Yeah. You're gonna live forever then.
Yeah, I know, right? I don't know about that, but
you need to start helping more people. It's like selfless thing.
It helps, you go home at the end of the day that I did something good to help make this world a better place. Then, it's really rewarding. Honestly, it is rewarding. No wonder why we have so many wonderful volunteers that come and support our organization, and they will come regularly, like paid staff members would. They come and they help because it makes them feel good. It makes them feel happy.
Goody Two Shoes.
I heard about them. Yes.
Yeah, I've worked with them a bunch of times, and they've got tons of amazing volunteers, and they just throw themselves in. They love doing it, and it's amazing to see how happy they are to help other people. So you're getting the same thing.
Yeah, it makes you feel more fulfilled.
How does somebody qualify to get assistance?
Different. So there are different qualifications that are necessary to
Actually,
be.
go back a step. How does someone find out that's available to even qualify?
Many clients that are in need in our community know our organization very well.
Is that for the word of mouth?
Word of mouth.
Okay.
Word of mouth. We do some marketing, obviously.
How do you market?
We have a website, we have a newsletter, we try to be active on Facebook, not as much other social media.
Okay.
But we have one person, Martin, who is helping spread the message.
Okay.
And every so often, obviously, we will be on TV or radio.
Okay.
When we have big projects going on,
so you get that
press
exposure.
releases.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was your question again? How do they know? How do they
find out about it?
I would say
if you're homeless,
most marketing would be word of mouth.
Okay.
And we are, I would say, a major provider, nonprofit provider in our community.
Okay.
So in the nonprofit community, I think a lot of people know the name Lutheran Social Services of Nevada. But when it comes to our clients, they for sure distribute the information via word of mouth. Sometimes we have so many people come in that we can't even keep up, right?
That's another question I had.
Yeah, they will come, and the eligibility is different because the way our organization receives revenue, the sources of revenue are different. So, for example, we have government funding, we have funds from individuals, we have funds from businesses, banks, corporations. When you have government funding, that could be city level, county, state of Nevada, or federal government. They have different eligibility criteria, different rules. So some of our clients will qualify for certain programs, some of our clients will not qualify. When we receive, for example, several $1,000s, let's say, from an individual saying, this is for the food pantry only, then we're able to use that funds and buy whatever we would like for some of our clients, right? So some of our projects might be, for example, the majority of our food pantry will be more easy to apply for because we've done it for many years without government funding, a lot of funding. But when you have specific projects, for example, our housing project, rental assistance project, there's serious eligibility criteria that they have to pass. But I think our clients are finding us easily because we're there. We can get hundreds of phone calls which we can't even respond to. They know us.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, so when you're qualifying people, you can only take so many calls or so many people coming in. And the funding can only go so far. How do you prioritize who you help first? And I mean, that's going to be
comes first. Whoever. Many times we will receive referrals from the government entity that we work with on specific projects. But we also are very good, as well as other nonprofit organizations in our community, are very good at providing resources to each other. So we know that, let's say, if our case managers are aware that this particular person will not qualify to receive a certain service from us, but we know that there are other nonprofits.
You're going to redirect them.
We will direct them there.
You're not just
because
back on the street
many nonprofits work together a lot.
And
we have,
so you're guiding them in the right direction.
Right.
Okay.
And so that's how we're able to, basically serve.
So Vincent was talking about something that caught my attention. And he was saying that a lot of children in Las Vegas don't eat until they go to school. Is that, how true is that? And can you talk to me about that? That blew my mind.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it? So the 3 Square Food Bank, our food bank, I remember hearing those reports from them as well.
What can you tell me what it exactly is?
So many of the kids would be on reduced. Many of the kids, their families will qualify for free meals, and they will receive it if they're part of Clark County School District. They would eat there at school.
At school.
So when the schools closed, for example, in during COVID, it was very tough. So 3 Square and organizations like ours and others had to really mobilize their resources and start sending foods to the homes and whatever we could do to serve them.
So sorry, just to make it clear, you're saying a lot of kids will only eat when they're at school.
Yes, and
meaning they're not getting fed breakfast, not getting fed dinner at home.
That's our understanding based on what we heard
really
reports
scary.
as well.
And is that just due to families not having enough money?
I'm not really sure. Could be that.
Is that a high percentage of people in Las Vegas?
That one I don't. I think that.
But I mean, even one child is enough.
I think our food bank will definitely know those numbers much more, because they're really large organization and they directly work with Clark County School District.
Okay.
And, they would know better. But if Vincent heard that information recently, then that is true.
And then you're saying 2 different things. On the weekend, when they're not going to school, there's no food. And then COVID, when they're not going to school at all,
it was pretty tough.
There was no food.
Right.
So you guys are like, wow, these kids who are eating at school are now probably not eating at all.
Right. That's why we had, when COVID hit and this whole situation happened and everything was locked down, we switched into a drive-through model of distributing food. So we would actually, provide the food. People would come with their cars and we would just put the food there. So we had cars. Our building is on Boulder Highway and East Desertine area. And starting from our building, there were like hundreds and hundreds of cars.
Really?
We basically, the cars were blocking the whole highway on that side because there was no choice. People wanted the food and we had to serve. And 3 Square had established different spots in the community to be able to provide lots of food. And it was wonderful at that time that the support from the community was wonderful. Everyone stepped up. And if you remember, a lot of casinos also locked down, right? So they started sending us tons of their food. And we started distributing. It was a lot of distribution at that time to help. And I am sure that we helped many families during that time. Also those children that had little to eat.
Families don't have cars, things like that. What happened? How are we finding those people?
You might be surprised that we have families that have no cars and they will take several buses to get to our organization or other organizations.
So they're forced to kind of do that.
Yeah, we have people with bikes coming with bikes. We have people that will come on their feet, and we have people that do have cars. So it's a whole variety.
Okay.
If they need the service, they will come.
Okay, interesting.
If I end up in a situation that I need help, I have to go get it, right?
Like you do when you're 13.
Is, right.
Like you've been there, you've done that.
Exactly.
You've stood in line for hours.
Yeah.
You've hiked up 7 flights of stairs with water.
Many times.
Yeah, that's crazy. My question was, so we talk about like low-income families. Why is a low-income families? I know that's a very generic. Why? But what is that? Is it people not getting enough work? Is people not being skilled enough? People not getting paid enough? Why does America have such a big...
I think it's a very big question that you're asking. I think it's a combination of a lot of factors. But one of the main ones would, I think, be that they get paid, many people get paid very low amounts of monies. So, for example, like if you have someone making $30,000 a year and you have 2 children and a spouse, I mean, it's tough to live on a $30,000, salary, or $25,000, $27,000. So starting from there alone is difficult when you don't have enough funds. I don't know how to answer your question, honestly.
So how do you change that? How do you fix that?
Wouldn't that be, I'm not part of government, so maybe the government has to have better policies.
Does that
I don't
mean
know.
paying people more money? Does that
um,
mean bringing the cost of living down? Does that mean
The prices are up, for example, right now, right?
Yeah, I know
Alcohol
right
is
now it's
so
harder than ever.
much.
Yeah.
So it's a very large issue of concern that affects the whole country. I would say, like this country for sure.
Yeah, like the rent in this
You
place
know.
has doubled.
Right. Yeah.
Like doubled.
Or like if you want to buy a condominium, 2-bedroom condominium, it's like $250,000 to $270,000. How can people that make $30,000 a year afford it?
The average
Or
house,
even the rent.
average house in Australia is $500,000.
You have what?
The median house in Australia is $500,000 now.
Yeah.
Over the whole country.
Yeah.
Not one state, the whole country.
It's unbelievable.
People buying a house in that country is getting
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Do you remember here when we were locked down, because people could not they couldn't pay. A lot of people would have become homeless had the what's the word in English?
Yeah, they kind of held the rent off, didn't they?
Remember that the landlords were not charging them rent for many months.
Yeah.
And they couldn't evict
Yeah.
people living there. But what happened, I think, after we now opened the state, now they had to recoup all these expenses, right?
Yeah.
The landlords, they had to figure out ways. I think the whole thing became so messed up after.
Yeah, I mean, it's all good not to have to pay your rent, but if it adds up for 5 months, 6 months, now you've got a big bill.
Yeah, I know. I mean, some of my coworkers are telling me how much their rent has gone up.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, I was just wondering, like, why like living in 2 different countries, I see it so much worse over here, and I always wonder why it is so much worse.
I've never been to Australia. When did you come here, by the way?
I've been here for 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah. But Australia, like the medical side, I mean, we pay high taxes, but we don't pay for medical. A lot of different things. You get unemployment. If you lose your job, it's not hard to get unemployment. You get looked after better. I don't know. I love America, but there's certain things I see in this country. It's very upsetting. And just everywhere I go, the homeless, the people don't make a lot of money. I don't know.
Yeah. It would be ideal, right, if we didn't have any of these societal problems. It would be ideal if all nonprofit organizations closed in the United States. That means we don't have any problems to take care of.
Yeah.
But the reality is not that way. The reality is there's much homelessness, there's many problems, there's housing, all kinds of issues that people are needing help with. And our agency tries to do whatever it can to support however many people we can.
Okay.
What can I say,
What percentage of people do you think actually want help, opposed to people who are just caught up in the circumstances and are just like, oh, this is just the way it's going to be? Do you kind of understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
do you feel like most people want to get out of the situation they're in, or they're just accepted and they're just kind of like?
Probably, I don't know if it's most people, but obviously some people definitely want to get out of it. Some people maybe get used to their situation and don't want to get out of it. And some people maybe need to be truly, pushed to be able to do it. I don't know. I guess it depends on people's personalities, their belief systems.
Do you think environment has got a lot to do with it too? Like if you're homeless and your environment is everyone's homeless, you don't really see the way out. You don't really see the permission. You don't You don't really see the gate opening to that path, right?
It very, very much could be, potentially.
Like, I mean, think about your friends and your conversations. That's what helps you become the person you are today. But if your friends are the wrong friends or the wrong environment, it's very hard to suddenly be that different person.
It's kind of like your support system, right?
100%, right?
I think you are correct.
You're governed by your environment for the most part, unless you, and when you're in that type of environment, I don't know how you don't get stuck.
And you know, a lot of times when people experience a lot of sadness, feelings of helplessness, anxiety, depression, if they don't receive appropriate help, it's possible that they might stay in that condition and not be able to get out of it. So it's definitely a possibility. And that's when we truly need our support systems, family members, or, you know, professionals that we can go and talk to, and to be able to get out of those situations and come up with certain goals. I think that every human being in this world has a story, has a purpose, and has situations that happen to us. We all have situations, and a lot of us can have really hard lives. I think it's just how we choose to respond to those situations. And for some people, it might be harder than others to get out of that situation. That's why I think our organization kind of exists, to give them a little bit of that push to see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel,
push
as
in the
much
right
as
direction.
we can, you know, to be able to help them, because, you know, it truly hurts us to see those situations, especially when we see the children.
And it kind of goes back to, it's not necessarily what happens to you, it's how you react on what happens to you.
Right.
So think about what happened to you and think about how you reacted, and now look at what you're doing.
Exactly.
So worst thing in your
is
life
true.
now turned to potentially the best thing in your life, and the most meaning and purpose, helping the most amount of people. Have you ever read Man's Search for Meaning? It's called Man's Search for Meaning.
No.
It's a book from the concentration camp in World War II.
Wow.
Jewish psychiatrist, I think it was, just talking about what he's been through and seeing people's will to give up. But also, like, and he talked about it's not what happens to you, it's how you react and what happens to you. And you're talking about some of the worst situation you could possibly be in your life. So I highly recommend reading. You probably really enjoy it. But I always think about that. It's always like, wow, this is happening. This sucks. But how am I going to react to this? What am I going to learn from this? How am I going to grow from this? How am I going to help other people not go through this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I remember a few years ago, I don't remember who, but I remember someone told me directly, like, I can't imagine how you, specifically you, it was talking about me, Armena. I don't remember who that was, but how you did not become angry or bitter at what you had experienced. And you, it even gave you more incentive, more motivation to actually go and fight on behalf of people that are, you know. So I never thought about it that way. I was like, why would I become like bitter from it? I mean, I cried a lot. I remember, I was young, I was a kid, and wanted to do regular things like other teenagers did, right? But we couldn't even have a normal life, right? Because it was so cold, but you had to go to school. But then how you had to study the same way. But we didn't have basic things, but we had to continue as if everything is normal. But yeah, it never made me angry or bitter. I think it made me more willing to fight on behalf of those that are suffering, if that makes sense.
No, which is amazing. So what comes to my mind is you see a lot of people who have been in accidents, paraplegic, quadriplegic, they've been burnt really bad, and they say this is the best thing that ever happened to me. And have you ever seen these people, these motivational speakers, these people changing the world, and they're being through hell and back, and they're like, I'm so thankful for being through this because now I'm able to do this. And I mean, that's an example of what you've done. And I don't want to have to go through that to have the true perspective. So I try to always have a true perspective, and I always try to think differently. But it's kind of what you're saying, right? There's two different ways of looking at things at what happened to you.
Yes. And look, I strongly believe that in my case, I'm just talking about me because people are different. When you experience something on your own skin, then you really understand what that means. When I actually know the feeling of how hard it was to stand in line and for hours to be able to buy food, right? Or be hungry or have no electricity.
You can't
so
read
when I
about
serve
it, right?
the client, I know what that kind of means, right?
Yeah.
It's wonderful for people not to experience those things. Those are difficult, feelings that I had to go through, right? But I think that when people actually feel it on their skin, it really is different, and it makes it, you really know what it is. It's like in you, right?
There's a deeper meaning,
right?
Yeah.
And I can understand that people that you just brought examples about accidents or things like that, and if you don't have any of that, then you don't really know what it means. But when you have that, you know what it means.
Yeah, you can't learn that
grateful.
in a textbook, or you can't read that.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah, absolutely.
In 2015, 3 days before Christmas, my son and I, my little one, at that time he was 4 years old, we got into a major car accident. It was not my fault. But I was really concerned about the driver who hit us, but he was okay. It was his fault, but I was also concerned not just about me and my child, but also him. And it was so serious that one of the L4, L5 disc in my spine did break, and then I had to have the surgery. It was really, really difficult. And before having the surgery, because everyone was saying, it's a very, it's extremely dangerous to have the surgery, don't have it. My mom was calling from Armenia, my family, like, we're so scared, don't have it. I'm like, you will become disabled. I'm like, but I am already disabled, because what happened was I think I was physically disabled. I was barely walking. I needed a walker or a wheelchair.
Yeah.
So it was pretty tough. And I couldn't sit down, Brendan.
The pressure.
I could not sit down for more than 45 seconds. One day, my coworkers and I did a test at LSSN, and they started counting. They said, well, sit down, let's see how long. And they counted. It took 45 seconds, and I had to jump.
Just excruciating pain.
Excruciating.
Really?
So imagine how I survived it and how I survived driving it. And I remember all that time I was praying to God, and I was saying, Lord, please, I beg you, let me sit. Can I please sit? I was praying for sitting.
Just to sit.
And when I would see people that were sitting, like we are sitting right now, I was like, oh my gosh, they're sitting. It's such a wonderful feeling. Like, will I ever have that again?
Something so basic.
I had to have meetings and lunch meetings at counters with people, like when high counters. We had to choose restaurants at that time. And people were so nice to me because they knew where I was. Because I could not sit down. I would go to meetings and I would stand.
Oh, wow.
I had to stand all day in my office, and we had to buy one of those desks that you put on a desk and goes up.
Yeah.
Then we were able to buy another one that you press and it goes up and down. That's the one we have now. But what I mean is, like, I was so grateful after the surgery that I was able to sit down. Just sitting down.
So I always say this,
right?
I feel like we get sick, so we appreciate not being sick.
Yes.
I feel like the common cold, we get it just so we appreciate, oh my God, like when I don't have the cold, I'm going to go back to the gym tomorrow. I'm going to train twice as hard and I'm going to eat better.
Yep.
It just gives you a wake up call. And I mean, that's an extreme wake up call, but I feel like these little things are important to keep us in check.
Yeah.
And when I see people abusing the health and taking it for granted, I'm like, some people can't sit for more than 45 seconds. Basic stuff.
Yep.
Be grateful. Look after your body. You only get one.
That is true.
Where's the future going? What's the plan? Where are you headed? What are you trying to do? What are the ultimate goals?
I think the ultimate goal of our organization is to become more kind of like a household name, if that makes sense. Like, that many people in our community know what Lutheran Social Services of Nevada is and does for our community. Just an organization that is trustworthy for many, many years to come. Because we're dedicated to our community and we're doing whatever we can with the services we provide. Obviously, we will, grow, we will add services that are necessary. But I think ultimately it's just to be this organization that is long-term trusted partner in supporting our community as much as possible.
Okay.
I would say probably that's what our future holds.
Is it just Vegas, or do you have different sections throughout the country?
So we only serve Southern Nevada at this point.
Okay.
And not just Vegas, city of Henderson, North Las Vegas, city of Vegas. So it's basically our surroundings.
Do you guys want to expand into different states?
Our current strategic plan does not include the expansion into Northern Nevada, but it's a possibility.
Is there other people doing what you do in different states, similar?
Yes, I was just at a CEO Summit last week in Arizona, and we have many Lutheran social services in different states that provide similar services and even more. We have different size nonprofits all over the country. Do you guys support
each other, work in conjunction with each other?
And we work with Lutheran Services in America, which is an organization of that tries to connect all of us. There's hundreds of Lutheran social services in the United States.
Okay.
And we try to share experiences and documents, whatever good practices there are. And Lutheran Services in America also advocates on our behalf with the politicians and trying to get more funding and different opportunities doing advocacy.
What are some of the most rewarding things that you've seen firsthand that put a tear in your eye, or something you'll remember forever? I'm sure you get a bunch of these.
Yeah, several years ago we had served this family. The kids, I think 4 or 5 children, a husband and wife. Wife was in the hospital, and it was pretty drastic situation for the family. So we served them. We helped them immediately with food and rental assistance. We housed them, made sure that it was a difficult situation. I believe they were from out of state, something. And my case managers would know more about the details. But I remember that about a year after we served this family, one day we received a $300 check in mail. And our Cherry, my coworker who I work with now 14 years, she comes to me, shows the check, and there's a note with it. And the note was saying, I don't remember the exact words, but it was saying that, when I needed the help most, you helped me, and now it's my turn to help someone else. And it was $300. We all were crying because we remembered that. And Cherry's like, do you remember this family? And we all were crying because that $300 was worth like $300,000 for us, because that we didn't ever ask, we never ask our clients for anything, right?
Yeah.
And receiving that meant so much, because that means we were able to help the person in such a way that the person went back on their feet and was able to kind of take that and give it to someone else.
Yeah, that's amazing.
We were crying. We were I put it in our newsletter even.
Yeah.
Do you
ever talk to them?
No, we didn't.
Yeah.
Because I think they're back to the state they were from. I think they were from Arizona, but I could be wrong.
Sometimes people just need that little bit of assistance,
a little bit of push,
and that's all it was, right? Mm-hmm. Just the right person, just having someone there at the time they needed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And then just to finish off with you personally, where do you want? Where are you going? Do you want to eventually do your own thing? Are you happy where you're at? I mean, what's the future for you?
My number one priority is my children, my 2 sons, for them to become normal, good citizens of this world.
Contributing citizens.
To be able to help themselves and help others.
Do they have that passion? Yeah,
I think my little one definitely does.
Yeah, sounds like it, right?
The oldest is really trying to work on artificial intelligence.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I haven't asked him,
that's the future.
What are you
going,
honey, are you going to turn me into a robot? And he's like, I'll tell you, Mom, before I turn you into a robot. So, but I think my youngest probably is more like me. And my other highest priority is the current organization.
Okay.
So I think like I told you, I'm like the fish is in the water, breathes in the water. I breathe. I'm the fish. I can't survive without Lutheran Social Services of Nevada.
What's it like to know that true purpose?
It's
Because
it gives you that.
most people don't know their true purpose. It's something Adam's got me working on right now.
Really?
Is finding that true purpose, and it's difficult. But you've known it for a long time.
Long time. It's just who I am, right? It's good to know that feeling because it makes you feel more grounded, more independent, more who you are, what you want from this life, and what the future holds. It's just who I am. I just know it. And
that's like what he's talking about is everything you say yes or no to. Does that align with what you're trying to do? And you know that, right? Everything you say yes to, everything you say no to, you know why you're saying yes and no to these things. Does this align with where I'm trying to go and what I'm trying to do?
Right.
So,
well, I hope you do find that purpose, like Adam.
I'm working on it every day. I'm thinking about it. It's difficult though, trying to what is it? Write down in here that, and that's where it's coming from, right? Your heart, and so I'm something I'm very aware of. Something I'm trying to figure out. Do you feel like do you like new and exciting experiences, or I love learning
different things?
And I love helping other people, and I think that's why I love this so much. I love taking, because like you said, everybody's had their own journey. It doesn't matter what someone looks like, what somebody's wearing, how rich, how poor. Someone can also always add value to someone else's life. And if I can be that person to add value to someone else, what I hope with this is one day I walk in the gym and someone's like, I dropped 200 pounds because I saw your podcast.
That's wonderful.
I started my own non-profit because I saw this podcast.
Right.
I jumped in this business because I saw this podcast and now I'm making X amount of money and I've never been happier. That's what I want out of this.
See, that's a purpose.
Yeah,
that's a true purpose.
I guess
you're kind of like what's the word in English? Medium. You're that.
Yeah, like that.
The
middleman, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Which is very important. You connect the two.
Yeah, like the connector, right?
Right.
So, all right.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
That was absolutely a pleasure.
Mine too.
I love what you're doing. Keep it up. Anything I can do to help. Anyone you can send my way, let me know, and we'll get them on here.
Wonderful.